high-octane fertilizer.
Hello, I am Dick Hartman, President and inventor of Biosphere Enhancement Corp, or Bi-En Corp, whose logo of a green plant over the sun depicts what our farmers do to harness the sun to provide us and all animals the energy we need to live. The next billion people on Earth will all have to eat. Might this picture of people like us in baseball hats and jeans become us, scratching out our food in the smallest city patch of soil we can find? I want to tell you a story about how Bi-En's microchip technology of putting microchips of man's oldest carbon fertilizer inside today's fertilizers can increase U.S. corn yields from today's fertilizers enough to produce 50 pounds of corn per person for 1 billion people from just today's 90 million U.S. grass family corn acres. This microchip technology could increase that to 450 pounds for 1 billion persons from the world's 150 million acres of rice and 540 million acres of wheatgrass plants. Octane. Until the 1 billion arrive, this sun energy capturing technology can increase U.S. corn for food threefold over urea fertilizer and add $1.5 trillion to U.S. treasuries and the jobs economy from corn biofuel additive replacing gasoline at $2.50 a gallon. Man's oldest fertilizer was made by man duplicating nature's fiery volcanoes. Nature's volcanoes use air's oxygen, O, to burn their black carbon coal, C, and lime, Ca, that captures air's nitrogen, N, to make carbon black cell-strengthening calcium and urea-like organic nitrogen, Ca, NCN, lime nitrogen fertilizer microchips. Black volcanic fertilizer soil makes Hawaii's profuse flowers and sweet fruits. The Garden of Eden. Earth's volcanic fertilizer soil, now under Middle East sand, is thought of having been a land of healthy plants and their sweet fruits. Dr. Leninger of Johns Hopkins University coined NCN nitrogen as origin of life. In the late 1800s, Germany patented the duplication of volcanic fertilizer by harnessing water's hydroelectric energy to burn man's mined coal and lime in 3,000-degree centigrade furnaces in air's nitrogen to make high-analysis black carbon calcium carbamide nitrogen lime nitrogen fertilizer, CaNCN. In the early 1900s, Niagara Falls powered one of the world's largest nitrogen fertilizer factories. Then low-energy cost 24% N and 44% Ca fertilizer was spread once at 200 to 400 pounds per acre. It lasted season-long. 1912 and 1928 field studies. Niagara Falls carbon-rich calcium nitrogen fertilizer studies were published by the American Society of Agronomy as holding more nitrogen and phosphate in sugar beet soil and increasing microbe nodules on soybeans that capture atmospheric nitrogen over no-carbon nitrate fertilizer.
What has Bi-En Corporation done to make current higher energy costs of producing lime nitrogen fertilizer into a low energy cost use for today's farmers?
1 pound per acre lime nitrogen chips inside lower cost, higher analysis fertilizers to 3 patented fertilizers. In the early 2000s, Bi-En patented carbon black calcium nitrogen fertilizer microchip technology for putting 1 pound of black chips per acre inside modern, higher analysis, lower cost, now common but leachable, dry and fluid nitrogen fertilizers. Either of those into fluid manures brings up the nitrogen analysis of dilute animal digested carbon and nutrients manures. The microchip's calcium digests manure's feces that removes manure's source of stink odor and fecal coliform.
How can 1 pound per acre do any good?
The chips synergistically help in using lower rates of fertilizers because the chips will help plant roots use up their soluble soil nutrients sooner to higher yields before being lost. This makes 3 new rapid plant uptake, less environmental and human exposure farm-useful fertilizers. An analogy is salt, pepper or spice condiments or vitamins or food supplement pills to be taken with meals. Here in soil kitchens, the meat and potatoes common NPK fertilizers plant nutrients totaling 100 to 300 pounds per acre. The root hairs can simultaneously drink in the 8 plant food condiments in CANCN that baby plants need.
So how do root hairs drink in their nutrients?
Here, you'll see a graphic how osmosis does that. Here, you'll see a microscopic video of root hairs with nutrients moving inside. Here, you'll microscopically see how a microchip jumps free to feed microbes and roots in soil water.
How can the chips get into the middle of urea granules and help the world?
Metering carbon chips into all the world's granular urea factories that now make 150 million tons of urea for today's 7 billion people can easily make all the world's urea feed soil microbes to hold its nitrogen in the soil for earlier roots and higher yields.
What's the difference between lime nitrogen fertilizer chips and other fertilizer additives?
The others are either inert polymer coatings or emulsions with no plant nutrients or have just one plant nutrient. They are designed to reduce nitrogen fertilizer loss in wet years. Black microchips have 8 plant nutrients and elements: black carbon from coal, iron, magnesium, silicone, nickel, sulfur, and calcium from lime, and nitrogen from the air. Those nutrients make faster growing and deeper young roots to outperform common fertilizers in both wet and drought years. Lime nitrogen is the only calcium nitrogen fertilizer with carbon nitrogen and extra free carbon. It increases the soil carbon nitrogen ratio like organic farming does. Thus, it can increase beneficial soil microbes that use, hold, and then release nitrogen to roots so it won't get lost. World-renowned England's Rothamsted Research Station discovered that lime nitrogen fertilizer with organic black carbon built up beneficial soil microbes from nil to 25 million per gram of soil within hours. They decreased nitrogen loss by 73%, whereas inorganic ammonium sulfate fertilizer without beneficial microbe feeding organic carbon did neither. In Bi-En's 2000 greenhouse study, one could see and measure the results of organic carbon lime nitrogen chips. With its 7 more plant nutrients and elements feeding beneficial soil microbes, they enhanced faster, larger, deeper, new young roots growth into larger plants for higher corn yields shown in the following corn field studies.
Along with environmental benefits, does Bi-En research demonstrate how farmers can make more money from lime nitrogen fertilizer microchips?
In 2002, first chips inside urea, Illinois corn research study with no added nitrogen post-dressings in 512 plots using 4 hybrids at 4 seeding rates in 4 replications. The green bars show that the chips all increased yields over plain urea every time, averaging 2.5 times higher return on investment, or ROI, from $2.50 per bushel corn. In 8 succeeding years of carbon chips inside urea, Stabl-U, corn research studies, the chips out-yielded urea and ammonia fertilizing in both bushels and dollars per acre at $4 per bushel corn. In 3 cases, printed in red, the chips used 25% less nitrogen per acre, making 1 to 8 times higher ROIs. This was over wet and dry years. See the following sequence of annual ROIs. This '07 Iowa corn farm aerial photo shows the microchip manure plot with darker green chlorophyll.
How can the chips get into the middle of nitrogen fertilizer?
Bi-En's fluid fertilizer dealers with special blending machines will mix and blend dry microchips powder into clear UAN to become sprayable soluble ionic carbon, calcium, nitrogen, and 5 other nutrients and elements. Black fluid UAN. During the recent past 4 years, the small right-hand black UAN jar was 60 pounds less nitrogen per acre than the larger left-hand clear UAN jar, consistently averaged 4 times higher ROIs. The higher chlorophyll and yield bars also resulted in 33% more sugar bricks energy. Studies suggest that this can result from enhanced soil microbe CO2 and their slower nitrogen release. Might Bi-En's microchip technology become a new carbon fertilizing platform? Late breaking in 2012. Here you will see how a carbon platform feeds beneficial soil microbes. Both the black carbon UAN on the right and the no carbon jar on the left spring fertilized the soil for summer corn. The carbon UAN with 25% less nitrogen made 5 bushels per acre more summer corn than the no-carbon UAN. Without another fertilizing, the carbon platform surprisingly expressed itself by carrying over to a fall mixed annual ryegrass and tillage radish winter cover crop. The no-carbon UAN made a sparse, short, and pale cover crop. The carbon UAN created a thick and tall, lush green cover crop. The carbon UAN platform created over 250% more annual ryegrass on the right than the no-carbon UAN on the left, and more than 250% tillage radish than the no-carbon UAN. This shows that the carbon-fed microbes multiply and hold fertilizers so they're not lost to the environment for not only one crop, but also for even increasing a succeeding second crop without fertilizing again. Corn growers will probably want to ask their fertilizer dealers about more information on this technology and how growers can make more money from some black Origin of Life carbon fertilizer in their fluid fertilizer blends for about $10 per acre for 1 to 8 times higher ROIs, or 16 times higher at $8 corn. It's the carbon and the microbes. We strongly believe you will see our discoveries in your upcoming fields and crops. Thank you for learning.